In my previous video, I took a look at the oversaturation of the 3D arena fighter genre in the anime game space. I also looked at most of the arena fighters released in recent years and the common criticisms and faults found in them. But today, I want to do the opposite. I've insulted these games for long enough, so now I'm going to look at the positives of anime arena fighters, as well as the reasons why some fans still like the genre. So, let's get started. The vast majority of anime games are fighting games. While the most common anime fighting game genre is the aforementioned 3D arena fighter, there is still a good handful of 2D fighters, such as Dragon Ball FighterZ. Aside from the obvious difference between the two genres, being the stages and movement, 2D fighters tend to be much more complex than arena fighters. 2D fighters will have a plethora of different mechanics and moves that players will need to learn in order to be competent at the game, and that's not even taking into account that you'll want to learn combos, frame data, etc. In order to be good at 2D fighting games, you need to sink a lot of time into them. And while this process is incredibly rewarding, sometimes you just don't have that much time to learn. That's where an arena fighter can come in. While there are obviously mechanics and combos to learn in arena fighters, the general gameplay is much more simple in 2D. Most games boiling down to one button basic attacks and another button for special attacks, bypassing the need to even learn any inputs for special moves. Of course, this means that most arena fighters lack the depth found in 2D fighters, but it also means that these arena fighters are much easier to learn. Anyone can jump in, play one round, and learn most of what they need to know. Meanwhile, players who want to take it a step further still have the opportunity to by learning and developing combos. This idea of just picking the game up and jumping right in leads me to my second point. Because most arena fighters are easy to jump into, they're also fun to mess around with. While the gameplay might not be as deep as 2D fighters, arena fighters like the Storm series and Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles really hit it out of the park when it comes to spectacle and visuals. From the basic attacks to the ultimate attacks, it's fun to check out how moves from the anime have been translated into a video game setting, or how developers have come up with new moves just for these characters. There have been multiple times where I'll just start up Naruto Storm 4 and mess around in free battles against CPUs for hours, coming with different team combinations and checking all the different characters' moves and abilities. And because the base gameplay is simple, it's easier to mess around with than with a traditional 2D fighter. In addition to just checking out the characters and admiring their visuals, it's also a fun experience to come up with your own what-if battles and scenarios, pitting characters against each other who might not have even interacted with each other in the original source material. It's like a toy box for these anime. And these types of battles are only possible thanks to my next point. One argument I see brought up that I can agree with is that an arena fighter just works for some anime. For example, look at Dragon Ball. While the 2D fighter, Dragon Ball FighterZ, definitely fits the source material, you have to admit that arena fighters like Budokai Tenkaichi also do a great job at capturing the essence of a Dragon Ball fight with its wide-spanning arenas, flashy moves, and destructible environments. This sentiment reigns true for other anime as well. 2D fighting games are usually focused on close-range combat, and that concept just doesn't work for every anime. My Hero Academia is another example. There are very few hand-to-hand fights in this series, as most battles are large-scale and full of flashy quirks and superpowers. These fights just work better in an arena fighter, because the larger areas and easy-to-execute special moves lend themselves well to a series full of flashy and over-the-top spectacle. I'd even argue that with a proper budget and enough development time, a Shonen Jump crossover arena fighter could be great. Bringing together all these different beloved anime and manga series, each with their own over-the-top action and supernatural abilities, would fit right in at home as an arena fighter, fit with destructible environments and bold special moves. Despite common belief, I don't want every anime game to be a Dragon Ball FighterZ clone. I don't even want every anime game to be a 2D fighter. There is a place for arena fighters, they just need to fit the source material, and there are plenty of anime where a competently done arena fighter can 100% fit the series it's based on. My final point is that arena fighters can do a good job at offering an overwhelming amount of character variety. Because movement and balancing isn't nearly as strict as 2D fighting games, arena fighter developers are able to craft some very unique characters that both stay faithful to the source material and play quite differently from one another. In terms of unique gameplay, Kill la Kill If excels at this. Every character plays very differently from one another, with most characters having entire mechanics and systems completely unique to them. When it comes to paying homage to the source material, arena fighters are able to include little quirks for characters that make them unbalanced in a traditional fighting game, but can offer fan service in an arena fighter. For example, in One Piece Burning Blood, if you place Sanji against a female character, then you can attack them. Another example is in Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash, which, despite being a poorly received game, has a surprisingly unique cast of characters, such as Sukuna's attacks damaging not only his opponent, but his teammate as well. Additions like these would never fly in a traditional 2D fighting game, because arena fighters aren't trying to be competitive, including fanservice moments in these are not only welcome, but encouraged. Of course, these previous 4 arguments I've made don't apply to every anime arena fighter, as some just don't receive the time and budget to fulfill these positives. However, the main point here is that anime arena fighters are made with casual fans in mind. You can occasionally get a game with deep enough gameplay to satisfy competitive players, such as Kill la Kill If, but at the end of the day, these arena fighters' goal is to create a game that any fan of the IP can jump into and have fun with. But of course, that means when the game is just flat out lazy, it can't satisfy either groups of players. But when there's some thought put into it, arena fighters can offer an experience that's easy to pick up and just have fun with, while you check out all the different characters and their moves, or make up your own what-if battles and scenarios. Not every game needs to be a fighter's clone. There is a place in the anime game community for arena fighters. That place just can't be every new anime game. Arena fighters and 2D fighters can coexist because they both have their own positives and negatives and can appeal to different fan bases. Arena fighters are great for casual fans to just jump into and have fun, whereas 2D fighters can appeal to fans who want to spend their time learning intricate mechanics and competing online. While it's still argued that the market is oversaturated with arena fighters, the main problem isn't with the genre itself, it's with the publishers and developers who don't spend enough time or money to make a really great arena fighter. The Budokai Tenkaichi series and the Naruto Storm series are great examples of arena fighters done well. Most of the entries in these series both have great story modes, great fan service, and are just fun to play. And even some recent fighters have potential, like My Hero One's Justice 2, and some were just flat out good, like Kill la Kill If and Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles. Forcing arena fighters to become competitively viable is not the solution. Instead, developers really just need to take the time to craft a well-made arena fighter and focus on the genre's strengths. There are probably a number of positives of arena fighters that I haven't mentioned. These four were just the main ones I've seen the most and that came to mind. So, if there are any aspects of arena fighters you like that I missed, then let me know in the comments. I know it can come off as incredibly negative a lot of the time, but I really do hope that we can see anime games have a renaissance with some great games. Not only 2D fighters, not only arena fighters, but any and all genres.